Welcome back. The entitlement issues we face today can be traced back to the low standards we set for our children. The bar needs to be set much higher. We're raising children who reach adulthood as grasping individuals, taking whatever they can from whomever they wish without stopping to question their actions. I recently heard of a widow in her late 50s who sold the farm that she and her husband had owned for all of their marriage. She moved to a smaller place and planned on using the profits from the sale as her retirement income. Her children were so angry that they even refused to speak to her. They felt that the money from the sale was their inheritance and it should go to them. What kind of distorted thinking is that? She and her husband had worked the farm, had put in their life's energy into that farm, and she had every right to sell it and do whatever she wished with the money she'd received from it. Her adult children were living their own lives, earning their own money and not supporting her. They weren't entitled to one single cent, yet they're trying to make her feel guilty for taking what she so rightfully earned. In the United States, they've been conducting surveys among middle management to upper management employees who were laid off when their companies downsized. There seems to be a growing trend among these people to try for a few months to find other employment, but then shortly afterwards they give up and stop looking because they cannot find a job that pays them the same kind of money. What we see happening to these people is that they empty out their retirement funds, their pensions, their savings accounts, their family's savings accounts, and mortgage their houses to the hilt. They've decided not to look for a job. If they cannot get the same kind of money they've been making, they're choosing to go on unemployment for however long it lasts and to live off everybody else. Some of them are sending their spouses to work at menial jobs. Others are collecting food stamps and welfare, and this number is growing rapidly. And these are people who are able-bodied and capable of working, but who choose not to, and society is supporting them. You don't have to look further than this to see how a country's economic crisis is irrevocably tied to the entitlement issues of its populace. A couple of years ago, I heard of a teenager who asked her father for a car after she got her license. Her parents were divorced and her father was trying to compensate for not being in the house as a full-time dad. He didn't have much money, but he bought her a new Volkswagen. She was so angry that he hadn't bought her a luxury car that she deliberately rammed her car into a stone wall and practically demolished it. Her father couldn't even claim on the insurance because it was deliberate. He ended up buying her a used car so that she'd have transportation. Now this father, well-meaning as he probably thought he was, only contributed to his daughter's sense of entitlement. Had I been that child's parent, I would never have bought her a replacement car, and I would have had her go out and get a job and pay back each week from her salary every penny of the amount of the new car that she'd been given. This disregard for property, for other people's financial problems, and for other people's feelings represents the kind of attitude that's running rampant among many cultures. When parents accept this kind of behaviour from their children, they're setting their children up for failure as adults. And of course, this plays right into the failure of the economy of countries around the world. How can we expect our politicians, our bankers, our financial institutions and our corporations to exhibit more accountability than we expect from our own children? Many children, single and married, move back home into their parents' home because they cannot afford to make it on their own. At what point does a parent know that a child must learn to survive on their own and stop taking money from their parents? At what point do parents know when they're causing more harm than good by continuing to treat their offspring as children? When they continue to make life easy for their children, these children will not know how to survive on their own when their parents die. It's far better to teach children moral and financial responsibility when they're young than have to learn it the hard way when they're older. I had to learn this the hard way myself. My father kept on giving me money, even when I was in my 30s, and I never really learned how to be independent financially. It took me telling him that I didn't need his help, even when I really did at the time, and then I learned how to stand on my own 2 feet and how to manage and earn my money effectively. I could go on giving you examples of entitlement in every strata of society, but the ones that I've cited are ample demonstrations of how we're contributing to the downfall of our economy. We're doing this on the local level, the national level and the international level. We're taking the path of least resistance, And while we're holding everybody else accountable for their actions, we're taking no responsibility for our own. It's time to reverse the status quo. Let's try an experiment. For 1 week, between this show and next week's show, try denying yourself something 3 times a day. Learn how to say no to yourself. Learn how to question your actions, how to observe them and question their validity. There's a letter from a viewer from last week, Peter K. He says, it seems there's so much to do to improve customer service. What would be your most important tip to get started? Thank you, Peter, for your letter. I would start with customer service training. It's vital to know how to listen to your customers and how to respond in a favourable way as quickly as possible. An air of cooperation and helpfulness is very important in dealing with your customers. And if you try to resolve problems quickly, your business cannot fail. If any of you viewers have an issue you'd like me to address, please contact CTV 03 377 7033, email inquiries@ctv.co.nz or write to 249 Madras Street in Christchurch. Next week, we're going to talk about credit card debt, how we make our purchases, how we pay for them, and how we think of our costs at the time of purchase. See you next week.